What should the future of Ja Morant be with the Grizzlies?
You know what? I said this before, Molly, and I'm a double down on it. I strongly believe that it's time for Ja to have a change of scenery. I really, really do. And I know the Memphis Grizzlies fans are gonna get up in an uproar, and I'm not attacking them. I'm just talking about Ja and his well-being and his future. And I think it's time for a change of scenery. And to be honest, we just got through talking about the Miami Heat. I think that's the culture and that's the organization that he needs to go through. Now, I realize this. I understand this. I know that they have the lifestyle down there in Miami. They have the nightlife. You can go to the clubs. They have the beaches. They have everything and more. But I also know that when it comes down to the Godfather and Pat Riley, it's nothing that goes on in that city of Miami without him knowing anything about. And I know this, when it comes down to Udonis Haslem, Mr. Dade County himself, and I know he's no longer going to be on the roster, but he's still going to be part of that organization. It's nothing that goes on in that city in Miami without him knowing about. So when I look at the culture and I look at what he could go and do for that organization and what the organization could do for him, I look at Ja and the change of scenery. I think Miami is the best fit for him. It's an established culture. He'll be well protected and he could learn. I think it's time for him to get out of Memphis.
That's a challenging one, I think, because I get what you're saying in terms of Heat culture, and you're right in that sense. Sorry, Jay, I'm going to let you go. But just as far as when we do talk about the distractions, I mean, Miami might be one of the most challenging cities to play in.
Park, you and my brother, man. You and I rap all the time. We have some of the realest, best conversations. I can't believe you just said that. Like,
what?
Perk, you and I both have played in the league. It's your surroundings are by your own design. Your surroundings follow you wherever you go, if that's what you want. Now, I hear what you're saying, and there's no question in my mind about the Heat culture. It is by far the best culture, I think, in the NBA. And I hear what you're saying about Udonis and Pat Riley and Mickey Arison and Nick Arison and Espo and Jimmy Butler. I love that organization. I respect it. But this is way bigger than an organization. This is about Ja Morant maturing in front of our own eyes. Now, you and I have all made mistakes. I mean, damn, I lost my mom 2 months ago. Like, bad things and crazy things happen, and how we react to bad things when they happen, that's up to us. Accepting it, having accountability, owning it, and then doing our best to change our scenery and who we surround ourselves with moving forward. I think this is a real-ass moment in Ja Morant's life about who he wants to be. And I don't think that has to do anything about where he is. I think it's all by his own design, because he has the power to say, this is how I need to do things differently moving forward. Oh, I use this excuse from a mental, health perspective. You know what? Maybe I actually need to go do the real work and think about what situation I put myself in, because it's nobody else's fault but his. So people can sit up here and say, well, the Memphis Grizzlies, they enabled this type of behavior. Okay, same thing like I said for Zion. Now, there are two different situations. I understand that. But at the end of the day, we can sit out here and say all these different things. Nah, it's on me. It's on me. It's on Ja Morant to ensure that he does the best job to make sure that he does not fumble the bag. This is a life-changing opportunity. And a life-changing, when I say opportunity, it's an opportunity for him to have accountability and actually do the work and change himself. An organization can put their best foot forward, but at the end of the day, he has to create the best surroundings for himself, man. You know this, we travel all the time, Perk. You can bring that party with you wherever you go. It's up to Ja.
You ever heard of the term or even the movie In Too Deep? You ever heard of that? See, it's things that I don't think you're realizing or is sinking in that it's actually a lot deeper than the game of basketball. It's actually a lot deeper and further than the organization. I've heard Stephen A. come on here plenty of times and talk about how powerful the NBA is when it comes down to investigating situations, knowing situations, knowing what's going on. Like at one point, you got to realize this. Yes, I know about the game of basketball. I know what goes on in organizations, but I also know and hear what goes on in the streets. And what I'm trying to tell you is this, Jay, and I'm going to sum it up by saying this. My thing is, the reason why I say that Ja Morant needs a change of scenery, in my opinion, is that I'm talking about for his own well-being.
So Doc Rivers essentially said he wished he had Harden young, and this is what I want you to break down for me. Does he wish he had Harden young because he was a better player when he was younger, or because he would be more coachable and more receptive to the style of play that Doc Rivers wants?
No, well, I think when he talked about having James Harden young, he would have been able to teach James Harden a level of accountability at young, winning ways. Not saying that James Harden is not a winner, but he would have let James Harden be the best version of himself, but holding him accountable. See, the problem with James Harden is the whole time he was in a Houston Rocket uniform, especially under Mike D'Antoni, hell, he ran the damn show. Mike D'Antoni never called him out in film session. He was allowed to do whatever the hell he wanted to do, so he never had a coach that installed accountability in him. And I think that's what Doc Rivers meant.
KP, I think this is really, really damaging for James Harden. And I know Doc wasn't trying to do it maliciously. And there are a lot of questions that loom around Doc himself as a coach as it relates to X's and O's and critical moments of games. You and I have talked about this over the history of time. We've seen it, brother, like multiple times. But the one thing I never questioned Doc on is his ability and his understanding of the game and his ability to see talent. So when I hear Doc talk about one of the most challenging aspects around James is his ability to give up the ball and then get the ball back, that just solidifies and cements the questions we've had around James Harden's commitment to being great. His commitment to his conditioning. There's a reason why LeBron James, even at 38 years old, you never question his conditioning. He takes care of his body. You may question his ability to preserve it throughout the entire game and him saving himself for moments defensively because of his age. But when you're watching James, especially in that Game 6 we saw this last year in the playoffs, when you're like, yo, James, where are you? And you're hearing that first basis account from Doc Rivers saying, yeah, it's challenging. So for me, if I'm Nick Nurse, if I'm listening to that, as much as people are publicly saying, yeah, we want James Harden back, do we really want James Harden back? Are we sure we want James Harden back? I got Tyrese Maxey that I feel like KP is about to explode on the scene. We never questioned Tyrese's conditioning or his commitment. He always play hard. He always trying to strap up. And Nick Nurse, a person who at times, KP, you hear stories around Toronto challenging people in the locker room. Do I want to invite, if I'm worried about Joel Embiid and challenging Joel Embiid, who's showing a commitment to actually being great, do I want to invite somebody else into the locker room that all of a sudden is a question mark? I'm not sure I want to do that. So all this talk about James Harden going back to Houston, if you're internally within the 76er organization, and if you're Nick Nurse, you're like, maybe the best thing for this organization is to allow James Harden to go back to Houston. Good luck. Let us move forward and let us bring in pieces that are committed to the process that we really need to put in place to win a championship. Tell me I'm wrong, KP.
I can't tell you you're wrong, but let me tell you why they can't. Why they can't. Here's the reason. If you allow James Harden to walk, and I'm with you, I think they should go out and get Fred VanVleet, right?
Yes.
That's who I think they should go get. But if you're Philly and you allow James Harden to walk, that means that your front office and Daryl Morey is flawed. You know why? Because listening to Doc Rivers in that interview with Bill Simmons, think about this. Doc basically said that James Harden got him fired. So you allow James Harden to dictate who your coach is going to be of that franchise. A coach who, by the way, has had your franchise guy in Joel Embiid lead the league in scoring in back-to-back years, play his best basketball, win an MVP under Doc Rivers. We saw the emergence of Tyrese Maxey under Doc Rivers. And I don't care about Doc Rivers doing that interview on James Harden. We never see Doc Rivers add out an individual player like that. But you know why I'm going to give Doc Rivers a pass? You know why? Because did you see Game 7? Did you see Game 7 against the Celtics? James Harden quit. He quit. He literally quit on Doc in Game 7. So if I'm Doc, hey, if you're going to cost me my job, why should I not go out there and protect myself and protect my character? Because one could say, oh, Doc Rivers, he have a record of, whatever it may be in Game 7s and completing series. But at the same time, how can you complete a series or how can you go in there full force when you have arguably your second best player quit on you? So when I look at James Harden, I'm with you all day long. If I'm the Philadelphia 76ers, I can't trust him if I'm Nick Nurse. I would rather them go get Fred VanVleet. I think Fred VanVleet complement Tyrese Maxey extremely well. We watched them in Toronto, and they were able to win a championship playing alongside one another because Fred VanVleet is great at playing off the ball, and he's so unselfish, and he's capable of knocking down spot-up shots and creating for others. But at the end of the day, the Philadelphia 76ers will look like fools if they don't bring James Harden back, knowing that they fired Doc Rivers because of James Harden.
Just very quickly, Perk, I don't think it was just James Harden that got Doc Rivers fired. I think, frankly, Doc had multiple shots at this and didn't get out of the second round of the playoffs. I think it was about the entire body of work. James Harden may have had a little bit of a say, but I also entrust Daryl Morey not to just say, oh, because James wants him gone, now he's gone. And I do think Daryl Morey, who's been around James the longest, actually sees the fact that James Harden is part of the problem. And if he doesn't, then he's sacrificing the prime of Joel Embiid's career, and that's an even bigger story.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.